Good morning and welcome with the sunshine coming in over there. No, that's not the sunshine. The sunshine's coming in over there. With a beautiful butterfly, and I don't care about bleeding through. That's bleeding through. You see, the sunshine changes because there's clouds.
Are we recording?
I'm in record.
Okay.
I'll stick that in record there.
Recording in progress.
Hi, Miles. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm extremely excited, sweetheart. I shouldn't be calling you sweetheart, but in view of the listeners, just before we started, I did a thing called open a window in my conservatory thing here. And I know I'm bleeding through in the chroma key, but who cares? And this beautiful butterfly, it's a lovely black butterfly, and it's floating around in there. And I wanted to save it. And that's my excuse for being late. And I'm going to stand by it because it sounds plausible.
That's fine. That's fine. I really wanted to talk to you today because I'm creating a new series for basically beginners, and it's called my debrief series. And I did a video yesterday about targeting, like foundations, but I really needed your expertise. So I want to talk to you today about targeting, if that's okay.
Okay.
So where would you like to start with that?
As with black magic and a lot of things, a lot of this is to do with freezing cold weather coming in through the conservatory because of the butterfly outside. No, there's not. No, the thing about it is a lot of this is about tricking you into being a victim.
Yeah.
And then you think you're wrong. There's a very good book called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And I because of this, I'm actually cross-referencing this because I've just seen that James Casbolt's been on a very good channel where they're talking about the way parents, there's a whole lot of stuff about parenting. And that's what he needs right now. He needs all that stuff. But the point is, as a child, when you're born, you think mommy and daddy are perfect, right? So that is, they're okay, and I think I'm okay, right? Then a situation happens when you assume that everything the parent does is right, and it's your problem, so that they're okay, I'm not okay, right? So that generates into your childhood a situation where authority is okay, and then it's all your fault. So then what they do with targeting, speeding onto various, the situation you need to get is, for instance, ultimately a lot of people in that situation have to do a thing called deparenting. So it's not the fault of the parents. They've got their problems. And therefore the parents are, and then we have this thing called, let's not go further than that. So you have a situation where you can then do, I'm okay, but I need to disconnect from my parents, which is a painful thing to do because you've always assumed your parents are okay and all that. The whole thing about religion and the whole thing about who's in charge and why you have a dictator, why you have an emperor, why you have a king, is that they're okay and you're not okay and you're naughty. And in Britain, it's permanent, and this is done by the BBC. And one of the slang terms for the BBC is anti-BBC. Auntie, I'm your auntie, and I'm scolding you children because of auntie scolding you. Now that makes you laugh, but that's a fundamental way that a senior granny or female figure is scolding you because you're naughty boy, right? Or naughty girl. And this reinforces the whole psychology. It's all your fault. And this is key to the targeting situation. And that's extremely damaging, and that's the way they've managed things. For instance, if you do 1.5 miles an hour over the speed limit, it's your fault. Penalise, penalise, penalise. Everything in the whole system is punitive. Attacks, your fault. Penalise, penalise, penalise. Wrong, 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 wrong. Error, error. You know. And I mean that error is coming from, I think, the great robot in Lost in Space, but it's similar sort of situation. Wrong, and you know. So one of the people I admired most was a long time ago. I interviewed Solaris Blue Raven, and she was being targeted by elements of a rock band because they bought this. They got access to this technology, and they thought they'd have a laugh and see what they could do. But it was a bunch of sadistic, psychopathic bastards, right? So the point is, once you establish a situation where you can see what's going on by externalizing your viewpoint. And I noticed this with James Casbolt the other day. He's been able to externalize the fact that his fundamental self-structure has been shattered. But the fact that he could externalize that view, look from it from a different perspective, once you externalize it, and I was on a thing yesterday with Ida Farrett and another guy, and he was talking about the oversoul or something.
Okay.
I have never heard of the oversoul. Oh, we're getting lots of flashing red lights doing this.
Yeah, we're going to definitely get some targeting on this one.
We're getting flashing red lights, and that's why
lifelong target, lifelong experiencer. So we're definitely going to get something on this.
Yeah. So, and
when I was recording my video yesterday, I was getting hit by a lot of frequencies, tinnitus sounds coming in and stuff like that, and I was getting like dizzy. So I imagine we're going to get quite a bit of target on this.
So,
just to explain to people what you believe a targeted individual is from your perspective, which might be different to my perspective.
Well, the first thing is the name is wrong. And I was impressed with a guy who decided to say, I'm not a target individual, I'm an empowered individual.
Oh, love it. Love it. Absolutely.
So
love it.
the whole name is triggering.
Yeah.
So the first thing you do is say, I'm not a target individual, I am an empowered individual. And dump the TI empowered. Yeah. But you're constantly reinforcing that situation. Well, I'm targeted. Well, it's okay. You're getting your wish. You are targeting yourself.
Yeah.
Effectively. And that's what they do. They get you to jump into the little rat in the wheel, and then they bugger off and have a holiday while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking. So the first thing you do with targeted individuals is, I'm an empowered individual. I am empowered. And that's the first thing you do. And that's what Solaris Blue Raven did. She became empowered, and she was able to hit the shit out of the bastards on the other end of the keyboard.
Yeah.
There are other ways of expressing it.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm creating this debrief series, so that we can start to empower people with the foundational information that they can then go on and research and begin to understand themselves better in their situations in an empowered point of view. Yeah. Because I didn't realize I was targeted until last year. And now when I look back, it's my entire life has been monitored, my entire life controlled, engineered, all around me, all the time. Yeah.
Well, that's I shouldn't do this. Don't do this. Just leave the bloody thing alone.
You're fiddling with things.
Yeah. But what made you suddenly wake up? Oh, today I'm a targeted individual.
Well, so I didn't understand what it was for quite a while, but I was at an event in York, and I'd done some quite empowered healing, quantum healing with somebody that day. But this goes back to the story when I was actually camping at the event, because it's so expensive to stay around York. Me and my partner at the time were in a tent in a field. No one else was there. And after I'd had that healing session, I went back to my tent, and I just got hit with voices male voices coming in, really negative, really mean. And it was my first experience of the V2K that I was really aware of. And it was kind of like overwhelming. And then I kind of lay down, and there was just voices coming at me for so long, and I had to kind of push them away. And that was the main ones. And then after that, I started to realize that I don't sleep. I get woken up in the night with voices and frequencies and things like that. So then I started to do more research into what this targeting could be, but I still was in denial in a way. And it wasn't until I had an experience outside my house where I was just sitting there. It was daylight. I'm by the river, so we've got the massive seagulls there. And then above a lamppost, the seagulls were flocking around this lamppost, and one of them smacked into something that wasn't there. And I saw it. I saw it hit something in midair, like bang. And then in my mind, I could see whatever it was like a box, like a cloaked box. And then I realized, oh, maybe I am targeted. Maybe I'm being monitored. There's something to this. And it wasn't until that visual with the birds trying to show me that there's something wrong here that I actually started to think, okay, maybe this applies to me. And then I started to research a bit more. Yeah, but until that point, I've had disturbed sleep for the longest time, unexplained pain in the body, frequencies coming in, overwhelming tinnitus, so many things that all kind of link back into targeting symptoms. Yeah.
That's an amazing thing about the birds. I've had a spider situation where I've had a big mummy spider. I'm scratching the back of big
So
English
funny.
garden spider, which when it gets to its full size looks like a scary, oh my God, it's quite a big spider. But that's an English garden spider. And that's appeared in the bedroom at the corner, one corner, for a second time. And I always release it. And this time I went out and walked up half the street and sort of left it out, because the English garden spiders are mummy spiders. They're not, I think anything will bite if it's disturbed. But to have that happen twice, I think, has got a meaning to it.
Yeah. Also, because I was working in a nuclear processing plant for 6 years.
Oh, the old
And
working in the
year,
nuclear processing plant routine
yeah,
for
I
6
worked for a
years.
construction company on site at a nuclear facility. Yeah. So, but this particular part of the story is we'd have to go through a security check to get on site every day. And they installed these new scanners, which were looking for telephone signals on your body. And I just said to him, I just want to check something. And I took my bag, my phone, everything off. So it's just me standing in front of this scanner, which was just like a toolbar, and the lights would flash going up and down, and the lights settled on my knees. And they
Yes.
said, oh, you haven't got a phone in your knees, have you, love? That's silly. And I was like, no, you've seen I've got nothing on my body. But obviously it picked up radio frequencies coming from both of my kneecaps.
Well, that is where certain individuals, I know that the implant network would have something in the knee.
Yeah, so I've not had my knees x-rayed or anything, so I don't know, but I did have my feet x-rayed because I recently had that foot surgery. And I do believe that it's shown on that picture I sent you that that is a tracker. I've had 3 other people confirm that was a tracker. Psychically, we've collapsed and dissolved it out. The tracker was actually linked to another implant in my lower back, which must have been like a generator for that tracker or something like that.
Yeah, the lower back, is that just above the coccyx, or what do we call it?
Yeah.
Off to the side, or directly in the
It
back?
felt like, for me, it felt like it was a bit off to the right-hand side.
And did it move?
Not that I know of, but I have had people kind of collapse that out psychically. So I'm not sure if that's still there or not. But I was told that I'd automatically switched off some of the trackers in my body, and then more trackers have been placed in, is what they could see psychically.
Yes.
So, and they linked back to an ET ship like the Zeta Grays. So I get bothered by them the most, really. The little ETs.
What would you call Zeta Grays?
Just the small ETs that everybody assumes to be.
Well, there's 200 different types of them. Have you been able to draw them?
The smaller
Allegedly.
ones that are used by the military and things like that. I don't know. I don't see them. I just get told that they're around me and that I've got a relationship with them, which is good and bad.
I don't think there's any goodness about any of those guys. It's only on their interests.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of guys, I think a group of 12, or I don't think it's precisely 12, but they were a group of British contactees, abductees, and they had been meeting ETs for a very long time, and then they decided to ask them some awkward questions. They don't like awkward questions like, what's your intentions? And then that melted back until they didn't have any contact anymore. Because I think, anyway, that's a story about how you have the power. Ask questions.
Yeah, questions is a big part of the work I do because I'm an access consciousness practitioner. So we're always saying, who does this belong to when thoughts come into your mind? Because like only 5% is meant to actually be yours and the rest is collective consciousness. So we're quite constantly questioning, okay, who does this belong to? I did have an experience earlier in the year, and this is why I ended up working with Sean Bond, because I was going to sleep one night and I wasn't asleep, but I was kind of dozing out, and I saw an image of a person reaching into my mind, and I knew it was a handler. So that's when I thought, okay, I want to explore this idea of handlers, targeting, and things like that. So that was in January. So from February, I started to work more often with Sean Bond from Psionic League, and the ACIO. So I had 2 sessions with them as well. So I was writing a little timeline of strange things that have happened to me this year.
So tell us about the ACIO.
So the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, they are a group of people that seem to be like a spy network or something, but they have access to multidimensional military files. So at first I had a session with Jessica Ariel Morocco, and she is really psychic, and she was able to see the correlation between me and the clones, because I've had an experience years ago where I saw some lady that looked exactly like me in France, and Jessica confirmed, yes, I'm seeing you everywhere. I literally see Julia everywhere. And she could trace it back to particular things as well. So then I went and had an interview with Peter the Insider. So you don't get to see Peter, but you get to hear his voice. You don't get to see the files, but he's reading them out to you verbatim. It's like that. And you can tell what's real and what isn't because you can feel it in your body. So I do plan to have another session with them at some point this year to go even deeper, because I don't think I was ready for that session last time because it was very uncomfortable, some of the information. So we were talking about me in multiple realms of existence, lots of different versions of me, millions of clones, 24 million clones made from me, which basically makes me the primary. So I've done a video on my channel, Anchorhaven, where I talk about the echo chain of clones and my relationship with my dyad super soldier partner, who also is part of that. And we basically call it the Orphan Black because it's based on that TV show. Well, the TV show is based on the clone program.
Could you, when you mention a TV show like that, could you say a little bit about where it is and how to see it?
Yeah, so the TV show, I think it's still available on Netflix. I'm not too sure, but it should still be available online. And you can Google it. It's called Orphan Black.
So what's the name of the show again?
Yeah, Orphan Black.
Orphan, as in a child that's been orphaned?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the premise of the show is that there's a lady that, she's in New York City. She's a bit of a con artist, but she gets off a train and she sees somebody who looks exactly like her jump in front of a train. And so then she takes that lady's belongings and assumes her identity. And then she realizes that police officer had been doing a big research into this clone network all across the globe, and they all looked exactly like her. So in a way, she was the primary and everyone else was made from her DNA. But in the show, it's based on a surrogate network. So people would go in for baby, to make their babies, but they'd all get implanted with the same embryo. Yeah, and it was all clones. And it showed, so the whole series, there's quite a few series of it, but she's identifying who the clones are, they're having relationships, and the network's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So of course there is a dark side to it. So there's a military faction where they're using the male version. So when I had a session with Jessica and Peter from the ACIO, we basically discovered from the files that I'm the female and Drago Reed is potentially the male version. And our DNA is very compatible. So we have similar abilities in our lineage. And we've been made potentially to create time soldiers and things like that. So it's really bonkers. It's really
Again,
out there.
what sort of soldiers were created?
Time soldiers, super soldiers.
Okay, sorry. Thought it was a different
Yeah.
version
So
of super.
that was me kind of in February this year. First of all, discovering, hang on, I'm a targeted person, an empowered person. Then discovering that I've got clones and that I'm part of the SSP, secret space program and stuff like that. And then discovering, oh, actually, I'm a dyad. I've got a super soldier partner. So he's the alpha and I'm the beta. What's this? What is this? So this year has been really strange. But as soon as I started to look into that, my targeting increased. So my sleep patterns were disrupted really badly, extra pain in the body. I started to get a lot of kind of mind manipulation coming in. So my thoughts, my mood swings would change, my behaviors were changing, I was getting extra fatigue, confusion coming in and things like that. So I had a session with Sean Bond, which confirmed quite a lot of things.
Now, who's Sean Bond? He's in the States and he's
in America. So he's from psionicleague.com.
Okay.
And he is like an energy healing master, advanced psychic person. He's absolutely amazing. And I believe he's coming on your channel as well at some point.
Yes, we're going to have a series about that.
Yeah. So he's probably one of the most effective healers I've worked with. And he's able to give me a lot of clarity on things that I was going through and evidence in a way. So after Sean, I contacted the ACIO and went deeper there. Then I worked with Christy Campbell to get clarity on visions I was seeing. So Christy Campbell, CC33, is also a psionic super soldier with her a lot of memory recall. So we were working together. And 2 days after I was working with Christy, right before I was about to have a kind of an interview with Jessica, that was when I had the black helicopter over my house. And now I've never noticed that before because I've never been aware of it before, basically. But this particular day, I was traveling back from college. And I was on the bus and I could see it over my house as I was passing on the bus. The supermarket was like 3 blocks away. So I got off, got some shopping, walked back. So within a 30-minute period, it was still over my house.
That's a hell of a lot of fuel for something that's...
Right. So I don't know if it's circling or what, but I was standing across the street when I took that photo thinking, how is that still there? And then the photo that I sent you...
Was it a helicopter or was it a projection?
Potentially a projection, because it didn't seem like it was moving.
Yeah, I think that was...
I don't remember... I think when I was on the bus, it was moving. And then when I walked back to the house and I'm standing opposite, it would just seem to be over my house.
The thing is, if you got a stationary object and you're in a bus or something like that and you're moving, the object seems to follow you, but it just doesn't. It's a bit like the moon. The moon is following you. I have
been told that I get ET ships over my house. So maybe it was a ship that was projecting something out. But when I took the photo and I checked back on that photo today, the time and date is wrong on it. Okay, because I know it was the 24th, I think, and it was maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. But the photo on my phone, it says the 25th of February at like 1:15 midnight. So there's a time.
But it should have been what?
It should have been 5 p.m. the day before.
Right. That needs study, though. Things like that need noted down. Down.
Yeah, I have, because I only noticed that today. Because I remember it was a Monday because I was coming back from college and I was at Sound and Lighting College at the time.
Sorry, the other thing is, any other photographs taken around that time, did they have the right date and time on them?
I'll have to check into that. I've only just discovered that. Yeah, I'll do some research on that and take note if it's an issue with the phone or if it's an issue with that actual photo and time displacement. Because I was across the street, so it's possible I was in some kind of bubble. Potentially, I don't know. So I only just discovered that was an issue. But in February was right around when I started to do the research. And then as I did, the handling, the targeting really started to increase. Now, when I was talking to Jessica Morocco and we were talking about clones and handlers, and I said, I feel like I've got a handler. She says, yes, you have. I said, I feel like my handler is a version of me who's in China. And she said, that's exactly right.
That's a big deal. So you could trace your handler, which is
I trace my handler. I have the ability to trace clones, which the ACIO told me not to do.
Why?
They think it's dangerous because I'm physically going into the clone. I can see through their eyes. I can ask them questions.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. So, but I've been told by ACO it can be dangerous because you don't know where you are and you don't know who you're with. And if there's more empowered beings there, then they will be able to see you, could potentially hurt you. So I don't recommend that to anybody. You know, it could be, but I've just, I clone slip is what I call it.
Well, I think that's a bloody good idea, that.
Well, in February,
and I do think that it's worthwhile tracking people when they're dead to see where they are. I think we need to have raiding parties into the so-called afterlife, because it's not the afterlife, it's something else.
Yeah, well, I'm not going into the afterlife. I'm going into the here and now on this planet. Yeah, I haven't slipped into clones off planet, but I know I do have lots off world, and they're used for nefarious things as well. They're used a bit like a currency, used as food for the Draco reptilians and stuff like that. Plus, they're used in space programs and stuff. Anyway, so that's just, but before February, I didn't really know any of that. And it's just what I'm getting into this year.
Well, for the purposes of this conversation, we're now talking, it's the 9th of February, 9th of September, 2025, my father's birthday. I don't know what age he'd be, but he'd be maybe 110 there or something.
So today's potentially a high energy day with that 9-9 numerology and astrology there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've experienced my own targeting. So I wanted to talk to you about, do you know much about the RNM, the remote neural monitoring?
Remote neural monitoring, I think that's something which Dr. Robert Duncan started talking about. But essentially, because you've got an electric field pulsing and energizing through your nervous system, you are generating electrical signal. And so, so it's possible to see what that's doing and then see what state your neurology is in the brain, and therefore reading. I think it's an early form. No, I think it's not too early, but it's earlier. So that's one way of actually seeing what you're seeing. It's different to putting a helmet on your head, where there's lots of probes going into your brain. And that was a way of getting electrical signals from the head. So somehow they've been able to refine that monitoring by knowing where you are, and therefore point some kind of a high antenna sensor system at you through probably some kind of a tunnel, a gateway tunnel of some kind. So they'd have to open something to make that much closer. Depends.
Do you think our mobile phones, our cell phones are being used for things like this?
Certainly the cell phones are being used for that. I mean, I've seen these watches, and these new watches have got a little LED, and that is measuring everything you've got. That's the last thing you want, are one of those watches on your wrist, which has got it's everything, blood flow, all sorts of. I mean, one of the hints that they were doing something in this range was when you get an iPhone, and the iPhone could take images in many different spectral regions.
Yeah.
That means they've built a phone with a sensor array, which can go through multiple different levels of skin parameters, and then separate out the data, which is actually, I think, possibly why they have two. Well, I don't know. I think if you have two sensors, you're going to get a better array. Maybe there's those watches are a multi-sensor array, which can monitor things at many different levels and get an awful lot more data out of that, because the pixels they're using in these cameras are very small now. I mean, originally this stuff was designed for astronomers to see stars, and that's how it was. And this charge-coupled device and what it can see is very important, because it's a phased array in two planes. And something we find that if you get an ordinary torch and you get a couple of Polaroid sunglasses, the Polaroid sunglasses will be polarized one way and the other lens will be polarized the other. If you get the two and put them together and rotate them so that they're at 90 degrees to each other, that simple torch will be able to display. You mustn't have any other scattered light. But by polarizing the light, you can see the biofield of the energy of the body. And that's not Kirlian photography, but it has the effect of Kirlian photography. So you can actually see when you put your two hands together, the electrical aspect of things arcing between your fingers using a simple torch and observing it with your eyes.
Yeah, we do that in psychic training, looking to see the energy coming off. One of the first things we teach people,
So if you take that, if you extrapolate that into these watches and mobile phones, they will be able to refine that to a much higher level at a much smaller resolution. So that's basically the same principle.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your questions about remote neural monitoring. But remember, we are a bunch of energy fields and electrical and biochemical processes which are happening. They produce a signal, and if there's a signal, somebody can look at it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because like voice to skull technology, so I've experienced that personally, and it's really uncomfortable. Have you ever had that yourself?
I think I'm beginning to have it. Certainly, there's been a lot of activity since. Well, I think I've actually been picking that up, definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they tested that on me in the BBC way back in 2011. There was a lot of, it's good fun, you know, when these people actually tell you. We got loads of emails about you, Miles, and they're all very, and we can't do this and do that. They didn't have to tell me that, but they did.
It's interesting. Because, I mean, voice to skull stuff, you know, I've had it where it sounds like different voices, but I've also had it when it sounded like my voice. And I've had it kind of waking me up in the night. And at one point I thought, is this just radio waves that are being blasted out in the night to everybody?
I think
and I kind of realized some of it is, and some of it's directly targeted at me. But I really do think there's like pulses going out at night that are so negative wording. Because I had this old lady voice saying to me, "You're hard-hearted."
Yeah,
and
the
it
grannies.
woke me up, and I was like, "No." And I was like, who does that belong to? Casting it away. So it's mad.
Again, that was using your grandmother type authority figure.
Like the auntie thing, yeah. Because one of the things I've had to kind of come to terms with lately is that my abduction started in childhood, obviously, when I was very young. And then you think, well, why didn't anybody protect me? Right?
Yeah.
Why didn't my parents protect me? Then you have to deal with that.
Well, that's the I'm okay, I'm not okay, they're okay thing.
Yeah, but it's all happening in like a split second of taking you, putting you back in that same second and stuff like that, because they're using advanced technology. They're using portal technology and things like that.
It's not that advanced. Don't think a lot of this technology is in the millions of years in the future. It's within the kind of technology which they started to suppress in the 17 to 1800s.
Right. Yeah, because when I went back recently into a memory, Sean Bond and I were doing a live vision quest, and it's available on his channel. And I publicly went and retrieved memories from Montauk, and I saw myself at that shipping yard, you know, walking into a shipping container in the 1980s, and that was advanced technology. I'd be surprised to see that technology now, and this was, you know, 30 years, 40 years ago.
Could you explain that situation?
Can I explain it now?
Yeah.
Well, we were doing like a conscious meditation with the idea that we would do some healing for my alters, potential split personalities, which happens when you're in these programs. So they mind fracture you so that they can program different parts of your personality, potentially put that into clones and things like that. So in this particular session, we were doing, in a way, a regression. But I was very conscious. So I was able to bring memories forward from the back of my mind, memories that have been suppressed, probably using technology as well. And it's not easy for everybody to watch this session, but the ones that did experience it with us live actually thought it was very relaxing, very calm, very supportive. And Sean is a very good sacred space holder, he really is. And he's got great authority energetically. So in this particular one, I'd gone back into a memory which was in a lab. And in these programs, government and space programs, a lot of me is a genetic scientist, like a genetic genius in a way, which is not me in the here and now. And so I'd gone into a memory of being in a lab, and the chair was there, the Montauk chair. And that allowed me to open up a memory of being in the chair and seeing myself as like an 8-year-old child, potentially a boy, I've been kind of put into a clone body, opening up portals. And once I've been able to kind of retrieve that memory and do some healing, we then kind of pulled out of that particular memory because it was obviously very emotional. And he said to me, find a keystone memory. So I went back to my home at where I lived at that age. And I suddenly found myself in the shipping yard, which was 200 meters from my home, a very well-known shipping yard here in Merseyside. And then I saw myself inside the grounds, and it was nighttime, and there were floodlights, and there was a queue of people of all different ages queuing up outside this shipping container. And I'm looking at myself. I'm literally standing next to the memory of myself. And I knew I was altered. I was in an altered state because I'm just waiting patiently in a queue. And there's no way an 8-year-old me would do that if it was me, Julia. So, and then I'm getting encouraged to go into the shipping container where I could see this round circular portal technology with clamps on the bottom and clamps on the top, and it had a light. And I was encouraged in the memory by Sean to walk through, because it's just a memory, so you can't be harmed. So obviously I was hesitant. And when I did walk through, I found myself in a room that I know to be in Montauk, Project Phoenix. And I could smell it. I could feel the energy, and it was dark in there, but there was just enough light for me to see cages of people. And that's when I came out. Because for me, that was a lot. I've not allowed myself to kind of express that before. I did that session with Sean Bond, because obviously there's a lot of trauma attached.
Did he see what you saw?
He saw a lot of what I was seeing, but he could tune into the energy. And the energy that he was feeling was the emotional energy attached to that memory, the emotional energy attached to that project, which he said was as big as the galaxy. So he sent healing out, collective healing, to heal all the, there was hundreds and thousands of people that died in that project, children and adults. And there's a collective energy there, a collective wound. So that's what we were working to heal based on my memory.
And of course that connects with Zena in Cornwall with Jack Parsons. And
well, I'm not too familiar with Cornwall, but I do have something that I wanted to explore about Bude, an adventure holiday place in Bude in Cornwall that I visited twice when I was a teenager through the school holiday system. And I'm now looking back, I believe that something happened there, but I've not explored the memories yet. Do you know anything about Bude?
No, I don't, but it's something which it seems to be very definite.
Yeah. So, I know it was an adventure holiday.
I'm going to get a thing of water and keep talking.
Pretty sure there were tunnels. But I went down there twice, and I thought I had a good time there. But when I look back on it now, from this perspective, I think there's trauma attached to those holidays. But there was still a desire to go again. So I almost went 3 times, but that was arranged through the schools. So I'm not even sure. And it was quite reasonably priced actually as well, for like a week away. I remember it being £125, and this is like the early 1990s, late 80s.
That's expensive.
Well, at the time we could just about afford it, paying in installments, me and my mum. So, but I'm pretty sure now when I look back, because I was listening to My Lab Gone Rogue, and I think her name is Zoe, and she's a UK experiencer, and she was talking about going away on holiday to Cornwall, and I think she was in maybe a foster system or something like that.
Probably.
On one of her videos that they got to go away on a holiday to Cornwall.
Could you tell me about who she is or where people can get to see her?
Well, her channel is My Lab Gone Rogue. I don't know her personally. I know her main channel did get taken down, so she's rebuilding her channel on YouTube. And she has some amazing testimony about being a super soldier. And a lot of the time she was an individual super soldier, but I believe she was actually paired up in the programs, potentially with Robert Pattinson, the actor. I'm pretty sure I watched a video when she mentioned that.
My God, and who does he act?
Well, he was the guy from Twilight and one of the Batman.
Ah.
And he's from the Isle of Wight, I think. He's an English actor. But so I'm pretty sure Zoe talked about that either on the Typical Skeptic podcast.
Obviously, you're not talking about the 1960s Batman. It must be one of the movies.
No, we're talking about, the Twilight movie series with Robin Pattinson. He's been in quite a few things, but he was I think he might have been the latest Batman.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know any more on that. I definitely think you should interview Zoe at some point if you can. Because she's very open and public about her military abduction experiences. Yeah. I'd like to get her on my channel, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get triggered when she comes on and starts talking about it. So that's why I haven't reached out to her yet.
Well, that's a challenge for you.
It is a challenge, yeah. So, you know, because what I did do an interview with Susan Long recently, and she was on The Typical Skeptic talking about dark fleet experiences.
He's doing a hell of a good job, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, with David Purcell or Typical Skeptic. Okay, yeah. Rob Khalil is amazing. He's got one of the best resources out there. He's done over 2,000 episodes on his show. He did get his main channel taken down, so he's rebuilding his YouTube and his Rumble. But he's still got thousands of episodes. Plus, you can listen to his audio on Podbean. So I'm a moderator on his channel.
And tell us that again. And where is it and all that?
Yeah, so for the Typical Skeptic podcast, so you can watch on YouTube, Rumble, you can listen to his audio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Podbean, I believe. Yeah, so Rob Khalil.
He's doing a hell of a lot of good work.
He is, for sure.
He's a major new resource. How long has he been doing that?
He's been podcasting for 5 or 6 years consistently, every single day, 3 to 4 shows a day. Yeah. Plus, he was at the Full Disclosure Now conference.
Yes,
and
twice.
I met him. From there.
He's the bee's knees. I have a lot of time for that guy.
Yeah, he really is amazing because he's neutral. He just gives a neutral platform for everybody around the world to come and express their testimony.
Well, I think that's extremely good.
Yeah, it really is. So he deserves a lot of credit. Yeah, it's fantastic.
But you need to be skeptical on this. We don't want to be falling into any traps. That's why I'm a bit concerned about the 20 and back program. It's another psyop.
Well, I have it noted in my ACIO records that I have been in multiple 20 and backs. I've not really dug into what that means, but I know I'm in quite a few different projects. I'm ready to go deeper now because at the time I couldn't really ask
How do you have
questions.
multiple 20 and backs?
How do you have multiples? Because you're placed into an echo, you're placed into a clone. Yeah, so the clone it could be your DNA or other DNA that's compatible, but it's your soul essence. Okay?
Okay, I'm wondering how that affects people and how they do the 20 and back thing.
I mean, personally, I know that I do get bleed through memories. I get bleed through pain and things like that. And as a primary, so I am basically used to run lots of different clone versions, lots of different aspects. There's like an echo chain of clones that are linked to you. So if
why is it called an echo?
You know what? This is a term that's come from Drago Reed at the Full Disclosure Now conference. So I'm not sure where he got that from. But yeah, so I'm using that based off his
That means you've sent something out and then it comes back.
Yeah, because it's like if you're in an echo chamber, you're getting a lot of the same. Yeah. So he referenced it as an echo chain, that we're echo chain templates. So
in other words, if you send people to different versions of yourself and the echoes come back, that could confuse things.
Not too sure, but if they die, you'd need to kill all of them basically to kill me. And I'm not using that as an invitation.
You don't want to give anybody bad ideas.
No, you can cut that out. So my soul is fragmented across time and space into all these other versions. Some of them will be augmented, or the DNA will be manipulated for different environments, different projects and things like that. When it comes to time projects, myself and Drago have similar ability to withstand vortex sickness and things like that.
Now, what is that? I have an idea of what it would be.
Yeah, so not everybody can travel through time, allegedly. Some people just don't have the DNA makeup, but there's certain DNA lineages or celestial DNA that
you would also have DNA that won't travel.
Yeah. That doesn't travel well because it's a lot of radiation when you travel through time. So I've had experiments done on me by the Zeta Gray aliens, and this was confirmed by Jessica Morocco, and she saw that they were checking my radiation dose to see how much I could handle. And when I was working at the nuclear power processing plant, I always felt like I was getting hit by a higher dose than everybody else. I'd go into certain areas and I could feel the difference in the energy in those areas and nobody else could. And at first I just thought it was because I'm an energy worker, I'm Reiki master, that kind of thing. But then when Jessica said, oh, I see there's these Zeta Gray aliens either side of you checking you for your radiation dose. And she explained it that they were doing these tests so that my clones could go and work in places like Chernobyl. And I said, well, do I have a high dose right now? And she said, oh, no, your dose is 0. That's the whole point, that you can transmute radiation as part of your natural ability. So I don't know any more about it. And it sounds a bit crazy, a bit far-fetched.
That's
so
a very good talent if you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of thing comes in handy, of course, if there's time travel, time displacement, or whatever. Audrey Walters, in her book, Space School Lessons Volume 1, she talks a lot about vortex sickness. So that's where I'm referencing.
Again, repeat that again, the name of the book.
Yeah, so Audrey Walters from Starseed Netlink on YouTube. She has a book available on Amazon, which is Space School Lessons Volume 1. Yeah, and she's a great resource for information. Yeah,
because there are people who have that sort of effect on them. I think some of the earlier contactees and things is they necrophy. It's peripheral necrophy, which I still can't say.
I started to wonder, do I have Havana syndrome? I'm getting these. I'm getting dizzy, I'm getting headaches, I'm getting these symptoms. Is this Havana syndrome? Somebody had said to me. But it comes back to I was getting overloaded and neutralizing the radiation.
Well, you must be dumping that somewhere.
I think it was just the ETs were just experimenting. Yeah.
No, but when you neutralize something, it must go somewhere.
Oh, I transform it back into light. So that's just a natural ability to take all the energy around me and transform it into positive energy. Yeah.
That's frequency shift.
I've had people tell me that they've seen me do that. So it's not that I consciously know that I'm doing it. Yeah. But I work with the violet flame as well. So I use the violet flame to transmute, to transform, to neutralize, and turn everything back into positive use.
I was told to use the violet flame in certain things. And does it work for you, or what?
It works for me because I'm like an anchor, so I can anchor those energies into the planet. I can tap into violet flame resources that are on the planet. There's like reservoirs as well on the planet, and I can tap into that and share that out. So yeah, I've been working with the violet flame since I was younger. Really moved into it when I was in my 20s, and now that's one of my main modalities. Is to work with violet flame energy, violet flame Reiki. I actually have an additional energy center which is called the violet flame chakra. So anyway, going back to targeting, can you tell us a bit about why people would use ELF, extremely low frequency?
ELF, long, ooh.
I've got it as extremely low frequency, like what they send out to submarines.
Yeah.
Or power towers or whatever.
I've just got something that's about to run out. It's all down to wavelength.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's just to back up. It'll have to run out. I've got 47 minutes. That'll do.
And also, I'm not too familiar with scalar waves. Could you go into that a little bit as well,
right.
please?
The whole point of wavelengths is that everything has a resonant wavelength. That's to say, acoustic waves have, and that's how you have a church organ. The low frequencies are very long pipes. The high frequencies are much shorter. So if you're dealing with the Earth's surface, if you transmit very high frequencies, they go straight up out of the atmosphere and keep on going, which is why when you're communicating with satellites, you use extremely small wavelengths, which are what they call millimeter waves. So the wavelength is a millimeter, right? So these are very, very high frequencies because they go straight up and come straight down. Bearing in mind that when you're doing things straight up, you're going through a lot less atmosphere than you're doing when you're going horizontal. So one of the problems we had with microwaves is that you're transmitting, for television, the more waves there are, the more information you can put onto that wave, right? Because there's a lot more of the wave, many more of the waves to use for what we call modulation, TV pictures or a lot of TV sounds or a lot of, anyway. So that would mean that they'd be able to go straight up into space, right to the satellite. However, the atmosphere has got a thing called a stratosphere and another. If the stratus, there's several different types of air, and some parts of the layers of the atmosphere can become charged with electrical ions, and that's from the sun. So, for instance, on a thing called medium wave or medium frequencies on radio, a radio station would be able to transmit to during the day to a local area like London or something. But at night, those waves, when they go up and they hit the ionosphere, it's called, because it consists of ions. Those waves can bounce off that and then be heard maybe 1,000 miles away. Okay, and that was used with shortwave. Again, we're getting shorter waves. And radio amateurs and long-distance communications would be able to communicate with people like in Australia or Africa or something like that, because it would go up to the ionosphere and bounce back, and maybe 3 bounces and you'd be able to talk to somebody. As the ionosphere moves around or whatever, then you get this phasing effect, and then the signal starts fading and stuff like that. But with the longer waves, for instance, we have Radio 4 on long wave in Great Britain. So we have 2 transmitters. One is in the middle of England and one is in the middle of Scotland. And those long waves, they're maybe a kilometre long, 250, 200 or 100 kilohertz. It's 1,500 meters, 2,000 meters. They can go a long way. So that's what we call long waves. And you only need 1 transmitter to cover the whole country, right? However, the amount of information you can put in that long wave, on the long wave band, there's maybe only 10 radio stations, but on the kilohertz band, there's hundreds. We can put more in there. So likewise, if you want to transmit to a relatively small audience, such as a submarine, you're not going to be transmitting lots of channels on that, but they can have a very, very long antenna, and then that can transmit in the ocean. And then you can communicate with data, not necessarily voice, with submarines and things, who would then extend a long wire out of the back of the submarine, and then they'd be able to pick that up. That's what ELF is.
So, from a
extremely
long view, with psychotronic warfare, how would they use these kind of these waves?
Sorry, you mentioned then scalar, right?
Yeah.
Light and radio waves and things like that are electromagnetic, which means they have an electrical component, and at 90 degrees to that, they have an oscillating magnetic component, and that's what's called a vector wave, right? Because you've got one component there and one component there, and that provides a vector, right?
Yeah.
And you can use that vector to transmit other things. We use it in color television to transmit the color information on a TV signal, right? Mm. So that's a vector wave. Now, the point about an electromagnetic wave is electromagnetic. You've got 2 waves locked within each other, and that's what they call a Hertzian wave, and that is what we have in light. You have enfolding waves in light, so we have the speed of light is the same as the speed of radio waves, and that's a vector wave, right? Mm. So that's what we're told, and that's the speed of light, okay?
Yeah.
So that's what we're told, that we can't travel faster than light, right? However, a scalar wave is made from 2 vector waves in opposite directions, for instance, 2 energy fields in an enclosed space, and if you get superimposition, you've got the negative wave, the wave going negatively, and you're 180 degrees out of phase. The top wave, the positive wave, and the negative wave get down together, and it collapses to 0. No, it doesn't. At 90 degrees, degrees to that, you produce a scalar wave, which is longitudinal waves, right? They are not vector waves, so they do not travel at the speed of light, and therefore they travel faster than light. They're not in that domain.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing with CERN. You have 2 opposing energy fields in the same space and the same phase and the same relationship. But when you put the two together, one, because they're in opposites, they collapse, and that produces a scalar energetic field, which means they're doing some very dodgy things and they're not looking for the God particle.
Okay.
Okay, so that breaks out of our so-called 3D space-time. And again, Einstein has locked us into this thing of linear time, therefore the term going back in time, which is not, it's a completely false construct, and also 3D space, and then we have space-time. And again, we're a multi-dimensional space. We're a multi-phasic, multi-dimensional, multi-frequency space. And that has a whole pile of other relationships, which is why you can teleport and go from one end of the universe to the other and all that, because...
I wish I could teleport, because I actually have memories of being able to do it.
Yeah, well,
this
is where our entire frame of reference in terms of the science that we're taught is banjack science, and it's corrupt science, and they teach us that. So our whole framework and how we see how things can happen are restricted falsely.
Yeah,
does
that's
that
amazing.
Make a sense?
So the term psychotronic warfare, what does that mean to you from your perspective?
Psychotronic warfare was, I think, a name brought up in the United States because they couldn't use orgon terms.
Okay.
So they use that to make things grow better in fields with the farms by having electrical energy systems which would have a monopolar energy field as opposed to a bipolar field, plus and minus. Okay, that again, this is a whole thing about the way we call radio waves. So psychotronics, I think, brought that term up to get us out of using the term orgon.
Yeah.
And there were severe penalties for that. The term orgon is banned by the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission for some reason.
Why is it banned?
Because it's Wilhelm Reich technology. And Wilhelm Reich technology is de facto Tartarian technology, which was made into forbidden science in the that whole era of the end of the 1700s and into the early 1800s is where an awful lot of science suddenly got corrupted and rewritten, and a whole pile of shit started happening. And that was at the end of the 1800s. Ergo, the whole cabal, and why we had World War One, and why a whole lot of things happened, and they banned a lot of medicines and homeopathic things because they're using that kind of organic energy field, which they don't want anybody to know about. Organic.
Yeah.
So that's a way of giving it a fancy name to cover up what you're actually doing. Cloudbusters and stuff like that, and I need to warn people about cloudbusters and stuff like that. When you're dealing with Riffian technology, people stick a whole lot of things together and they make it organic, or they do what you got this thing called organite. Most of the organite stuff are just pretty paperweights. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They make them, they look pretty, and they call it organite. And that's a trade name. So does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I actually have a friend, a bit of an affiliate with Orifim Shungite, and they make, I'm not sure if I've got one in here actually, they make pyramids. So organite generally is layered technologies or whatever, materials. And so yeah, Orifim Shungite, they bring in the Shungite with silver, with the resin, and layer it through.
Yeah, but the whole point about that is you've got to watch what you're doing, because you're dealing with different frequencies. And if you layer things, you're dealing with a capacitive effect. Yeah. And that is why they end up looking pretty.
I did a video on my channel with Leon, and he's talking about orgon. He's talking about organite technology that he's got, and that's actually on my channel.
Yeah, but the point about it is a lot of people are just fiddling about making pretty paperweights. I'll see if
he really goes in, because he's a scientist, he's a lecturer, so he goes into other realms of that. I'll have to introduce you to, actually, because a lot of people are using
these are original proper orgon devices, right?
Yeah.
Now this is shaped with in a cone shape, and you'll note it looks like Silbury Hill. And it's got some gold effect stuff here in the tip. They put some blue stuff in there to make it look pretty. Okay.
That looks like that was made by Orgon Chi.
That you've got them. You've got some. This is a relatively low and high frequency device because you can see large flakes from milling machines in there.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then you've got more smaller items, and the resin is the insulator.
Yeah.
So these were made by Matt Todd, who was one of the associates of James Casbolt a long time ago, and this is a physical, effective, multi-frequency dispersal device.
Yeah.
However, now that the frequencies they're using are much higher, you've got to use a much more refined insulator and conduct. It's a conductor and insulator. So, for instance, the modern ones, more recent ones, will have iron oxide, minute powders, and that puts the frequency range up to a much higher frequency range to cause a dispersal effect to the kind of 5G. Very much higher frequencies that they're using now, whereas that will work for a certain frequency range. This is a very pretty device. That will have a completely different frequency range because you've got compressed. Inside this is a compressed quartz crystal.
Yeah.
Now the point about compressing the quartz crystal in the middle of this, you can't see it, is that when the resin sets, it compresses the quartz crystal. Then the quartz crystal starts pushing energy out, because remember, all of these things are a dynamic state of matter. They look like a solid rock or they look like a solid crystal, but there's moving energy fields in there all the time with the very way that the atoms and crystals work. This is a very pretty device. Again, it's got this has got
is it tourmaline or is that shungite?
It's got black tourmaline in it, and it's got a
Herkimer diamond.
Herkimer diamond.
Yeah.
Brazilian quartz, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Herkimer diamond's from Herkimer, New York City, so it's got.
Is that right? Is that the one in the middle there?
Unless it's got both a small Herkimer plus a Brazilian, maybe. That looks nice. Oh, I think it's got little tiny Herkimers in there. Yeah.
So there's another thing I have which is far too big, and we did a layered organic bubble because we had to use a different term for orgon, and that involved putting fundamental crystals in the base of it. But we then used common concrete and cement dust.
Yeah.
And then we found that the concrete that buildings are built with, you can energize the structures of the concrete that structures are built with.
Gypsum. Yeah.
Again, we're dealing with different frequencies, and we're dealing with different ways of doing things. It's just not a pretty paperweight. Okay.
No. Yeah, I love working with the pyramids. I also work with copper pyramids as well. Yeah, so I love all that kind of stuff. It's great that I can talk to you about crystals. I didn't realize that. Because I love crystals.
I mean, this is another pretty. They've used Coke cans to make this. Again, this is resin with iron filings in it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
It's an X spider there, I think. And that's got quite a big crystal in it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not pretty, but it does the job.
Yeah.
This is again another device created by Matt Todd ages ago. Now, what this is a Tesla coil.
Right.
Now, the whole point of a Tesla coil that's what a Tesla coil is. The whole point is you can just about see the wire on that. Okay? So what this has been made from is two equal lengths of wire wound together using a drill. So there's a very, very fine winding there.
Yeah.
Okay? So that fine winding is a coil going clockwise, and then in amongst the same coil, you've got exactly the same coil going backwards. It's called non-inductive coil, because the whole point about coils is to be.
I was looking at, I've got a pendulum that is a quartz that has magnets and it's got copper wrapped around it.
Yeah.
And it's called an etheric weaver from the Matria shop in Glastonbury.
Yes.
Up in the middle, that weird shop.
So the point about this is a piece of electronics which has got a piece of electronics which produces a pulsed 5 volt wave, which goes through the coil and is therefore stressing the crystal using a scalar pulsed field, because this is two coils, one's opposite to the other, so it cancels out the wave, but it produces a scalar wave. And this is a very powerful little device.
So what do you generally do with that yourself? Do you use it for healing?
I use this when there's a nasties about, and if they don't like it.
No.
I've got I got a battery I forgot about. Let's see if this is going to work.
At the conference in July, did you see those people that had the Tesla bed?
Yeah, I think that was all low frequency stuff, and I think they were dangerously fucking around with it.
Right.
Yeah, they were producing very high voltages. It was a lot of.
I actually have a crystal bed. So it's one of those mattresses that goes on the therapy bed, and it's full of crystal chips, and it heats up. So of course the heat is then putting in that pressure into the crystals, and it feels amazing. It really does. It feels really good.
Well, I'm going to make an official statement here. One of the reasons, in fact, I think the real reason they got rid of the curly whirly light bulb. Maybe I have a curly. Do I have a curly whirly? Right. This is very important. And when I saw Mimi Nelson using I had a whole pile of big football-sized curly whirly light bulbs. Now, what do you see in that curly whirly light bulb?
Nothing really. I can't tell from this angle.
You have got a Tesla plasma device.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, the point about this is you've got one coil going one way up to the top, and then it switches over. It switches over at the top, and then it goes down the opposite way.
Yeah.
That's a Tesla coil.
Right.
That's a Tesla plasma device. And they didn't realize these things can heal.
So are these hard to get hold of now, or you just can't get them at all?
Well, I saw her using them, and I threw out all the ones I had. I still have a few. But she was using the very high voltage, they had them for hen houses and stuff. I had a big, I think I might still have one. And she was doing this, pushing it round. It's the same as a plasma wand.
Wow, okay, that's
those
interesting.
old plasma wands. The point is this produces a high frequency pulse to light that up. This is the same technology that they had in the early 1800s.
Wow.
And the 1900s.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But we all threw them out because they've got dangerous toxins in there. I only realized this. I mean, I noticed this a long time ago, that this was a Tesla device and it was producing an energy wave that way. It was just like an antenna.
Yeah.
But I think these could heal, and I think it's well worth seeing if you can get these things, because in this configuration, this is a Tesla coil. It's got an energy plasma wave going one way and an energy plasma wave going the other way, and they mix into a scalar energy field polarized through that way, I think, this way, and these once the most hated things on earth, but I think they didn't, somebody got this through.
Yeah.
So one of these devices could produce a healing, in my opinion, based on what Mimi was using with these to go around her body, big ones. She was healed. She felt a lot better.
Wow. They're always trying to get rid of the technology once they realize we're using it for good, aren't they? So
well, somebody clicked on that, and as I say, I still have a few of these, and I'm using them to sort of get rid of them and use them up. I mean, this is obviously quite old because I've had it. There's no date on it, which is another reason why half of them that they made were illegal. 16 anyway.
Yeah.
People should just think, used properly, don't break them.
Yeah.
I think you've got a device there.
Yeah. So the term psychotronic warfare seems to be like an umbrella term for the scalar waves, the direct energy weapons, the EMF and acoustic.
Well, it's also got a fancy buzzword, psychotronics. But the same kind of things have been used in cathedrals and on energy lines and earth energy grids, which is why you have a five-sided cathedral, a five-sided geometry cathedral or huge churches, and you have another set with a six-sided one, the so-called feminine and masculine principle. And they've all been put on huge crystal altars on the Earth's ley line grid, which the Catholic Church in Rome sought to put churches on every single energy site possible. In other words, megalithic sites with big dark crystal altars. They're using psychotronics in those churches.
Yeah.
Tim Rifat's done a heck of a lot of work on that, and a heck of a lot of it on his various websites. And if any of them are still available, because an awful lot had to be taken down for legal and commercial reasons. He couldn't.
I mean, the churches were meant to be healing centers, weren't they? Before they were churches, they were just healing centers.
Yes, and that's why the church went out to destroy them and to stop them being used, because what we've got is an extremely, totally parasitic, energy feeding infrastructure in our entire control structure around the planet. Dalai Lama the whole way down.
Yeah, that's intense. Tell us about direct energy weapons, because I've had a couple of experiences myself. Have you had any experiences?
I think I have. I had to talk to Sean about it, and he said he couldn't do anything about it. I had about 6 weeks of middle of the night high powered energy weapons, and I had to fight it off myself.
Usually he can track things back, because I had a really bad
he says he told me I can't help you on this one, Miles. So
then it'll be a lesson for you then.
Well, it certainly was.
That's very annoying when that happens, because something similar happened to me recently, and somebody said, "Oh, just remember that you're a creator being, and they shouldn't affect you."
Hey, you're a crazy being.
I was furious, but I did control it in the end. So how are they using?
Exactly, you did control it in the end.
Yeah, I did. So what is a direct energy weapon? What is a geoattack?
Well, a directed energy weapon is any kind of acoustic wave, a high pulsed weapon which is directed at you. They call it non-lethal weapons. These are non-lethal weapons. They don't kill you.
They just make your life.
So we're being kind, for frying your organs slowly inside with a multi-frequency microwave thing.
Yeah.
Or anything which induces your thoughts externally which are harmful, or so-called pleasurable.
So-called pleasurable, as in wanting you to get into an altered state.
Yeah, it can trick you.
Yeah.
This wonderful big black butterfly. I don't want it to get into the spider's web. Anyway.
Yeah. So I had an experience, I think I might have already told you about this one, where I went to another town and I was walking fine, even though I've got arthritis in my feet and ankles. And then all of a sudden I wasn't walking fine and my legs buckled, and I've been hit by an attack on my right leg.
Exactly what circumstances did that happen?
So I was going to Chester, and I was supposed to be getting keys to a hall so I could run a retreat the next day.
What time of night?
It was in the daytime. It was in the midday. I was on the train. I was fine. I get off the train. Within a minute, I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
And I had to hobble all my way, dragging myself.
I've had that situation happen when somebody saw some kind of hypnotic flickering. There's a thing called Li-Fi, where they use flickering LED lights. That's another major problem about LED lights. They can put multi-frequency flickering through the electricity supply, and that was the whole point of it, was to use the electric light as a means of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So Li-Fi had pulsed frequencies pulsing, and that goes straight into the optic nerve, and that can shut down certain parts of the brain. That happened with Dr. Rowney Kilda. She was actually walking between two LED streetlights. And sometimes the switch mode power supply in these LED street lights starts going wrong, and they start flickering at a different frequency. So what happened was, as she walked between the two street lights, there was a differential frequency which basically went straight into the brain and shut down her ability to walk.
Wow. Yeah,
The
'cause I
only
was
way
in the
she was
train
able
station when it happened.
Yeah, the only way
so-
she was able to get out of that was she had an idea. She was one of the first people talking about all this kind of crap.
Yeah.
Former Dr. Rowney killed her in Norway. She had to crawl, use her upper body to crawl out of the flicker range of the light. And once she got out of that, she was able to recover her walking.
Yeah, mine definitely wasn't as severe as that, because I was able to move forward, but I was like dragging my right leg. And then I had to still go and complete the work I needed to do and then get back. Then when I got
If
home,
that happens,
I passed out for like 5 hours afterwards.
yeah, if that happens, try closing your eyes
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
or putting your hands in front of your eyes.
I think using that Li-Fi, then you could literally activate an asset and activate an altar.
Yes, they can
Probably.
do that. See, this is what they were doing. This is one of the things we discovered. A certain friend of mine found a bunch of greys at a substation. Now, that substation was going to put pulsed electricity, alternating current electricity to a whole region connected to that situation. So what she did was she put these orgon blocker devices at her junction box, at the master switch box coming into the house.
Yeah.
And the Greys came and told her, you can do that to your own one, but you leave the rest of the place to us.
Wow.
So they were able to completely mass hypnotize a whole housing development,
Yeah.
because that whole region was then going to have this pulsed light. And that's why they want these LED lights to do that pulses. But the LED lights can pulse at a massive frequencies.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I think Veronica Bartolini talked about how she can affect the lighting, or Susan Long can affect the lighting in their room. When they start to get empowered, it, can literally blow out the lights. I did blow out a lighting. It was last year. I was having a session with Soma Ara, and she was channeling the Palladians, and I raised my energy to match the Palladians, and the light above me shattered. So, yeah, these
Well,
things.
is your light an LED light?
It probably was. I'm not too sure, because it was just in the hotel.
That's the whole frequency. That's the whole point of these LED lights, and they've got them everywhere. I've got a long strip light here, but it's just a whole lot of little lights.
Well, the strip light in my kitchen, when I had my partner living with me, and we're separated now, but he used to get a lot of targeting, a lot of handling. Of course, I didn't realize that at the time, that he was getting targeted to handle me. I look back now, I can see it quite clearly. The light above him, because he was always sitting in the kitchen, because he liked to smoke and things, it would always flicker, it was always flickering. And then when he left, completely stopped.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like insane.
That may have been discharging on his.
Yeah, he was definitely getting some kind of interference, I think, which was not good. Anyway, so we've been going for just over an hour. Did you want to talk about solutions, or was there anything else?
Sorry? A solution?
Yeah, solutions for targeted people, empowered people.
The first thing you do is call yourself an empowered individual.
Yeah.
Second thing you do is you can fight back with these bastards by anything they send you, you send it back to them.
Yeah. We also heal the handler as well. So we talk to the handler, identify the handler. They don't like it, but
I think the first thing you've got to do, the handler has to realize he is not safe in his working position.
Yeah.
These things are thinking, I'm doing this and I'm getting time off on jail, or I'm getting paid money for it. And if I hit this and hit that, a lot of people are given a little control panel, and they're given a list of buttons and codes. Right.
And they're not always bad people, right? They're just in bad situations.
They don't realize that they think, oh, I'll do that and I'll get time off and be sentenced. The first thing they've got to realize is they're not safe from consequences.
Yeah.
And that's the key to Solaris Blue Raven's work 15 years ago. Sometimes that sort of length.
Yeah.
They are not safe from the consequences of their actions. That goes right up to the man with the big title on the door, or the person, the lady with the big
Yeah.
title on the door. They are not immune to consequences.
Now,
And once they
recently,
get that into their thick, psychopathic, control freak fucking skulls, this may start to stop. What goes around comes around. Some people call it karma.
so I have an example of that. Recently, a couple of months ago, I was interviewing somebody who I knew was a TI, an empowered person. So I was putting preparations in place. I was using my crystals. I was setting up shielding, but I still got attacked. But my intention basically to take anything that went to them and bring it back to my side so I could transmute it. But what actually happened was I was targeted by a handler, potentially that was for the other person, who must have had a field day realizing who I was, because I'm cloaked most of the time because the program that I'm in for handling under the TIRAP program, which is one of the oldest targeting programs out there. So then I started to get targeting, and it felt like something had gripped both of my wrists. So I was like pinned down, and my bones were being microwaved inside out. So my arms were on fire. That's the feeling I was having. I still managed to carry on the interview. I managed to text a friend, and I had texted somebody before, and I said, I think I'm going to need help with this one because I can already feel stuff coming in. And then during, I messaged a friend and said, look, I need a sentinel running guard here. Something's going on. And so there was a ship over my house. There was a dark entity over my house. So I had two other really empowered people taking these down, but I still had fried arms. Now, my right arm has sigils. It wasn't as badly affected as my left arm, which is nothing, hence why I'm getting the tattoo today. 2 days later, I was still fried. I couldn't use my thumbs hardly. It felt like my thumbs had been sliced off. My hand goes up. And when you look at, sorry, my hand keeps popping. What did you do that? When you look at old warfare, they would cut off the thumbs of warriors so they could not hold a sword. Now,
Well, they did that with fingers as well.
Yeah, but 2 days later,
That's what the term two fingers means. I have two fingers so I can pull a bow.
I managed to connect him with Sean Bond, and he connected the attack back to a handler who was actually in Montauk, an actual person in Montauk in the here and now. And they were using an ability, which was a scorpion ability. So they'd basically harnessed an entity and was using it for bad. So the scorpion had pinned me down and was zapping me, and I was getting hit by other weapons. So Sean Bond, in his authority, isolated the handler, stripped them of their abilities, and awarded them to me. So within a couple of hours, he'd made an antidote. My arms were neutralized. I could use my hands again and everything.
What was hitting you was probably a low frequency VHF signal of some kind.
Well, the scorpion ability was an actual entity which came to me. So that's part of me now, part of my energy field. So that's I work with the scorpion ability. But yeah, so he actually
better be
tracked
careful
it back.
here, people, because she's good. You don't know what she could do. Be quiet.
I have a tail. And I'm a Scorpio, so it's kind of cool.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so yeah, so he tracked it back in the here and now to an actual person who was obviously instructed to target me for nefarious reasons, and he basically gave that person warning and then stripped their abilities from them. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean,
that's really part of the occult sciences of what we call magic.
Yes.
One of the things which a lot of they would do, again, this is all physics. It's physics, this stuff. So you use
it's
it.
all energy.
It's energy, it's physics. Everything's energy. Something's oscillating, doing something. If it's doing this, then it does that.
Yeah. So, I mean, practical things that I use to defend myself. I do work a lot with crystals because I'm a crystal therapist. So I work a lot with the dark crystals like the black tourmaline, the obsidian, the shungite. This is a black agate wristband that I wear for protection.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, that looks cool.
So I work with crystals. I set up like crystal grids in my home. Plants are always advised as well to help offset EMF frequencies and things like that. However, I can't keep a plant alive. I don't know if that's because I'm rubbish at it or I just get too much targeting coming my way. But yeah.
You need to talk to your plants. You need to get the right one.
Yeah. So
So the
I do
plant
do a lot
needs
of,
to be able to talk to its plants to sort of feed in.
yeah, I do a lot of meditation and I do a lot with water. So water is a really great ally
I
when it
have to
comes
say, I've
to,
had to drink some water on this.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, any other top tips for anybody who's receiving targeting or any other ways to identify?
Remember, you are in charge, and don't call yourself something which makes you a target.
Yeah, because we're not victims here. We're powerful creator beings, and they kind of will put thoughts into your mind to make you think that you're not. And like for me, for a long time, my entire life has been handled. So I did not realize that my life was meant to be a different way. And it was only when I started to recognize signs and get more, more researched and to think, hang on, think, well, it's not like that for everybody. That's insane. So yeah, so I started because even when I lived abroad, I lived in India for 10 years.
Oh, you're just bragging now.
No, I'm
That's
not.
where she gets her posh English accent. Everybody who's been in the empire will come up
No,
with it.
no. When I lived out there, I had an Indian accent because wherever I go, I adapt my accent to fit in, and that's our natural abilities. Yeah,
That's just a natural thing to do. If I go back to
it is.
Belfast, everybody thinks I'm in Belfast because my accent
Yeah.
switches.
Yeah, you are a bit kind of Northern Irish today. And well, I
No
lived in
way.
India. I actually thought I had a normal life in India, but now when I look back and I realize how close I was to Diego Garcia Naval Base, and I had it confirmed that I had a clone on the base. I know there was bad things happening to me even when I lived in India. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you go. It's all handled. It's all targeted. It's all a
Well,
design plan
another
that you
thing
can
that
create.
I find is by interviewing some more, a few interviews in the last couple of years, is that the people who've been targeted and been abducted and things have evolved the ability for them to go to any place of the universes.
Yeah.
And they just walk out of the bases. They can see the changing room where the grey suits are. So when people are taken in, and the first thing they do is see greys, it's US or some other country's personnel, because this happened
Yeah.
to
Actually, that's I forgot. I wanted to
Walsall,
ask
what's
you
his
about
name?
MI5 and MI6 and the difference between the two. So I think of MI5 as in the country and MI6 is outside the country and off planet. Do you agree?
I think there's a different agency for off planet.
Because I was reading, I actually got the hard copy of the first book,
Yeah,
and I think he makes reference to MI6
he
being in
probably would.
the program. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really
Well,
interesting. So I'm
it's
trying to get
I'd have to try and get that book. I was going to interview him, but the thing is, I have to be tough. I can't take people telling me stories.
No, he's very cut and dry about his testimony.
Yeah, but I
Very
think
clear,
that's
yeah.
now. Yeah, yeah,
He may seem like a young fellow, but he's not. He's
yeah.
very old.
No.
And I don't know him personally, but I've watched a few of his interviews, and he's very straightforward. He
Yeah.
would do a great interview.
Well,
But
I
the
think
book,
when
we're
you've
talking
got
about John Whitberg.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
talking about his series, The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes, and he's got 3 books in total, I think. And this is all based on his alter. I can't say his last name.
I think when you've already got an existing series, there's no point really repeating it somewhere else.
No. Yeah, but there's a lot of good information there because even it starts on Project Ibis, and straight away it's not what I thought it was. Because I have links to Project Ibis, but only from what I've learned from the ACIO. Because I remembered a time travel crystal. I remembered holding it in my hand like a necklace.
Again,
So
that's an oscillating device which simply shifts your phase into a different whatever.
Yeah, and I saw it activate, and it looked like a kaleidoscope of colors around me, and that was my memory. That's all I've got from that particular program.
It's interesting why they have kaleidoscopes in the first place.
So why is that?
Well, you know.
Okay.
A lot of these little toys seem to have a deeper purpose.
Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about before we finish?
No, I think I've got in my head to get this thing for Syed Noah, who's just come back. We've got to have lunch in about 20 minutes because he's just back from Egypt, and he's going to be talking about what he's done. This is the first time I can talk to him. He's only just back yesterday. And he's got a conference in Glastonbury on the 4th of October at doors open at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, exciting.
For that. And
then, of course, we've got the December International Disclosure Conference, 12th to 14th December in the UK, in PC.
a lot of the speakers want 2 bites of the cherry, and there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk on that because
yeah, but it's going to be really exciting. So people can go to basestv.org to get tickets, which are now available. And I'm going to be there.
you've done a heck of a lot of hard work on that, and I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm just excited to be able to support the event. Yeah,
the whole point of holding something like that in Britain is to people who, it was very good about this conference I was at the weekend, the Strange Days conference, and a lot of really interesting, wise people with questions. Also a lot of characters. We did have a visit. I don't know if I sent you, but we did have a visit from a Bigfoot. There was a lady doing a whole thing on Bigfoot. I think she was quite large herself. Shouldn't have said that. But she had a lot of experience with the Bigfoot. And
I also work with a Bigfoot guide, and David Purcell and I channel a Bigfoot a couple of times a month.
But anyway, this Bigfoot turned up, and I ran out and actually did some video. I put it on my Facebook. This is an actual Bigfoot that turned up at the conference on Sunday morning. Yeah, that's an actual Bigfoot. Yeah, there's no way there's 2 feckers in it standing up in a suit walking about causing trouble.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, interesting.
There's going to be people not seeing this sarcasm and think, "Oh, there's a real Bigfoot at the beaches,
it's a video
at the barge. It's a real video." Oh my God, there were some Irish people there. That was good fun. Good to see awake and interested people from Ireland. I'm very disappointed they took so much of the vax, but that's another thing.
So this has been really good. Thank you for joining me. So this is part of my debrief series. So anybody who is starting out and they don't know where to go, they don't know what anything means, I'm putting together resources on my website, anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief. There's PDFs there that you can download and then build off. There's links. There's steps about, kind of taking control of your energy field, grounding, protecting. There's things like that. Unfortunately, when things like this start to happen, we do have to go back to basics and reevaluate your boundaries and, put your shielding in place. So there's information about that on my website.
Which is?
anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief. So there's a whole debrief section. If you'd like to go deeper and you need somebody to talk to about your experiences, I am available for an initial consultation. And if you wanted to have I'm actually calling it an empowered session, it's quite funny, with me and David Purcell. David has a lot of amazing recall about all the programs and things. And as you're talking, he gets downloads of information to bring you clarity about what's going on with you and your energy and potential memories and things like that. So so we're working together on that. David Purcell is my podcast partner. So we've got a whole series on my Anchorhaven YouTube called Galactic Support Series. We've got 10 episodes where we're both talking about the process of recovering our memories. Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing a heck of a good job. And the thing which I am so gratified and happy about is that there's lots of people out there who are beginning to talk and get engaged and talk to each other, and that's what I want to hold these conferences for, so you can come and talk to each other and meet each other, and I want to try and make this a much bigger thing. And certainly the event with Strange Days at the Barge Inn, with a whole day of talks and then a lot of music at the night and everybody camping out and having a good time. That was a really good way of doing it at the Barge Inn in Honey Street, and I know they're going to do more of those. With 40 in Times, I think is the backer to that. So that's a good Strange Days. It's I think great. with maybe some of the atmospheric, shall we say, ethers, it was Strange Days with a couple of Z's at the end of it. That's enough from me.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much. So basestv.org. Yeah. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Okay, that's great.